It started with a single phone call. Every night at exactly 12:07 a.m. my phone would ring. No caller ID, no voice on the other end, just silence. At first, I thought it was a prank, but then things started happening, things I can't explain. And now I wish I had never answered that call. My name is Daniel Carter. I live alone in a small apartment in Chicago. I work late nights, so staying up past midnight isn't unusual for me. But about 2 weeks ago, something strange happened. My phone rang at exactly 12:07 a.m. I picked up, and there was nothing, just static. I hung up, thinking it was just a glitch. But the next night, it happened again, and the night after that, always at the same time, 12:07 a.m. After a week, I started to feel uneasy. Something about the silence on the other end felt wrong. It wasn't just empty space. It felt like someone was there, listening, breathing, waiting. One night, I decided to speak first. "Hello," I whispered. No response. "Who is this?" Nothing, just that eerie static. And then, a faint sound, like someone exhaling or whispering my name. "Daniel." My blood ran cold. I dropped the phone and stared at it, heart pounding. That was the first time I heard the voice, and it wouldn't be the last. I started keeping track of the calls. Same time every night. Sometimes static, sometimes just breathing. But then one night, I heard something else. A sound in the background. A faint, dripping noise, like water hitting the floor. The next night, the dripping got louder. And then something even stranger happened. My phone buzzed. But this time, it wasn't a call. It was a picture message. My hand shook as I stared at the image. It was a dimly lit room, old and abandoned. In the center, there was a chair, and from the ceiling something, or someone was hanging. I couldn't see clearly, but I knew one thing. I've seen that room before. I recognized the room. It was the basement of my childhood home. The house I left years ago. The house where my father disappeared. I haven't been back to that house since the day my father disappeared. Police said he ran away, leaving us without a trace. But my mother always said he never left. He just disappeared inside that house. Now someone or something wants me to go back there. I knew I shouldn't have gone back to that house, but I also knew I had no choice. The calls weren't a coincidence. They wanted me to find something, or maybe someone. When I arrived in front of my childhood home, my heart was pounding. The house was still standing, but it had been abandoned for a long time. The windows were broken, the paint was peeling. But the strangest thing, the front door was ajar. It was as if someone had been waiting for me inside. First steps on the old wooden floor felt like stepping back in time. The smell of dampness, the sound of wind rustling through the cracks in the walls. I could picture my mother in the kitchen, my father sitting in his rocking chair. But everything had been destroyed after that. The night my father disappeared. The police said he was gone, but my mother always said he was still here, left behind in the walls of this house. And now, I had to find out if she was right. Behind that door, an old wooden staircase led down into the darkness. I couldn't remember the last time I'd been there, but the picture that was sent to my phone was from this place. My blood ran cold. I knew I wasn't alone. I had never known that door existed before. With shaking hands, I pushed the shelf aside and tried to open the door. It was locked, but from inside, there was a knocking sound. Someone or something is behind that door. But I felt like this key belonged to this door. I took a deep breath, inserted the key, and turned it. I opened the door. What I saw inside made my heart stop. I opened the door. As my flashlight shone on the room beyond, I felt my blood run cold. There was something, or someone, inside. It couldn't be. The man looked thin and frail, his skin pale like someone who had been locked up in the dark for a long time. He slowly lifted his head, and when his eyes met mine, I recoiled. I couldn't breathe. I recognized that voice. I recognized that face. It was my father. I didn't understand. The police said he had disappeared years ago, but here he was in the basement of this house, skinny, neglected, like someone who had been locked up for years. So who locked him up? My hand shook as I picked up the book. I opened it, and the first page made me want to throw up. It was my mother's handwriting. My mother locked him up here for years, and I never knew. But why? Why did she do this? I read further. As I understood the contents of the note, I felt the world around me collapse. My mother was not a victim. She was a murderer. She killed someone, and my father knew the truth. That's why he was locked up here. That's why he disappeared. I shook my head. She died years ago, but my father just stared at me with a horrified expression. And in that moment, I realized one terrible thing. Never received a call from someone who wanted to warn me. I received a call from someone who wanted me to come back.